A very warm welcome on News9 Mediaverse, and you are watching To The Point. In this edition of To The Point, we are going to talk about the bandh which is in place in Manipur. Manipur police cracked the whip and took tough action against 5 miscreants who were carrying illegal weapons. They were arrested and produced before the magistrate. But instead of being applauded by the people, there was a 48-hour bandh called by 5 local clubs and the Mairapabis, a group of them. Markets, shops and business establishments drew a deserted look with only a few vehicles plying on the roads on Tuesday morning. Supplementary examinations of all subjects of Class 10 board exams that were slated to take place were cancelled in the view of the bandh. The new schedule for the exams will be announced by the Board of Secondary Education. Manipur on Monday, Mairapabis blocked several important roads in Khurai and Konba in Imphal East District, Kakwa in Imphal West District, Nambol in Bishnupur District and parts of Thoubal District, demanding the release of the youth. This is truly surprising. Let me come to the point. Brijesh, this is truly surprising that despite ad nauseum talking about how civil society cannot pressurize security forces in context of operations, now you have this sort of a civil pressure on a state government. You have called for a bandh for people who were carrying weapons which our sources tell me were pretty sophisticated. They were not light weapons they were carrying.
Well, I think this is an act which will be very tough to explain, because I can the initial explanation was that how Assam Rifles, certain units of Assam Rifles were doing something which was beyond their brief. This was the allegations leveled by the Meitei community. But now when the Manipur police has arrested 5 youths and this kind of bandh which has been called, it's a clear cut pressure tactics to intimidate the police. I mean, you cannot have an extra constitutional, extra judicial system at work where anybody who works in the favor of the group will only have the free run, and anybody who runs contrary to your narration will face pressure. And I mean, imagine those kids, exams have been now been rescheduled, and then the kind of pressure on the civil society also at large, I mean public at large, facing a lot of inconvenience. And this doesn't send a very good message also to the police, that if you do something right, I mean, you can contest the sequence of events, but you cannot hold the security forces and apparatus to ransom like this.
Okay, let me introduce our guest. I am joined by Major Samar Singh too. A very warm welcome to you. Yashovardhan Azad, former Special Director, Intelligence Bureau. He also served as the Information Commissioner. Hejang Misao, social activist, and Group Captain retired Nandkumar Sharma. I'll go to Yashovardhan Azad. Sir, this sort of uncivil pressure by civil society activists to free people who, as per the tweet of Manipur police, were carrying sophisticated weapons. You have the entire shutdown. In which part of the world civil outfits like these can create so much of pressure to disrupt civil life?
This situation has been building up for some time now, and these women groups, the activists, Mairapabi group, has been also releasing even from the army clutches. If you remember that convoy in which the terrorists were caught, they were released by these women activist groups. Even the police were subjugated, and in fact most of the rifles and the ammunition which were stolen from were actually given away. And I must laud the police for taking action or starting to take action. And these were again reports which are coming in that there are these people in camouflage fatigues, and they're carrying sophisticated weapons. I don't know how many of them have been stolen from the police. And at this point of time, when they have been seized and they have been arrested and put up before a magistrate, it's really tragic. And the worst part is that the 10th board supplementary exams, they have had to be postponed. So it's creating havoc with the system with this kind of a paralysis. And I agree with you, Kartikeya, nowhere in the world would anything like this happen. In fact, there would be a full support. Today, the crying need is to bring a semblance of law and order in Manipur so that people start their way of life, ease of life, and something like that is a real severe impediment to peacekeeping operations.
Azad, why do they have such disproportional impact on the government? First, this was in context of Assam Rifles. Today it is in context of Manipur police where they have taken action. These are the tweets, police takes action, and now you have shut down the entire city. And they also made an attempt to free them from the police station. A sepoy of Indian Army has been killed. I am not saying that everything has gone awry in last 48 hours, but this is very disturbing when civil society actors take better of the security grid.
Is that to me?
Yes, this is to you. This is like overground actors of insurgency, if I may use the word.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. In fact, earlier on, the incidents which had taken place where the IG's car was burnt, and gradually, the incidents were coming down. This has come as a very, very severe jolt. We remember the cases also of the police officer being killed. And now that this has happened, it's an actual confrontation with the state police and rather with the government. This is a very serious action which has been contemplated upon by the government, and I'm very happy that they have been put up before the magistrate. But this action is bound to continue because, Kartikeya, let us remember that in spite of the incidents coming down, there's a clear division, territorial division and also administrative division, where, it's a kind of a ghettoization where, the Maitis are, congregating towards one side going across, and the Kukis are going across to their settlements. Therefore, this in itself is a very, very serious development and the government should look into it. And I don't know, it's a 48-hour bandh. I hope there is some end is brought to it, because without this, the road to peace is not possible.
Major Tool, your opening comments, what should be done?
Kartikeya, basically, there has to be a panel which is going to involve key figures from the Meitei community and the Kuki community who first come and agree on talks. So the main reason is that until and unless there is no representation from both the sides, there is going to be a stalemate, number one. Number two, the longer it stretches, more the weapon caches are going to increase, the smuggling of weapon caches. And their smuggling routes are mainly from Burma. So the Kukis are already getting their weapon systems from the Burma side. And then the Meiteis are also managing to smuggle their weapon systems from the across the border. So I'll not name the particular country because of the present scenario and reasons restricted with the government. So, but it's well understood which country I mean to point out. So the thing is that external countries will take advantage of this situation until and unless there is nobody who's going to come and sit for talks and normalize the situation.
Okay, I'm also joined by Hijang Misao and Mr. Nandakumar. Mr. Nandakumar, now, if you look at the developments of past 48 hours, the supplementary board papers got cancelled. The entire commercial establishment is shut down. Don't you think that it's uncivil on part of the civil society to force a shutdown like this if Manipur police is taking action?
It is very unfortunate bandhs have been called by the civil societies of Manipur. It is troubling the Meiteis. Mostly it's affecting the Meitei community. And I have been speaking to a lot of many friends, and they are suffering because of this bandh at this juncture. However, the bandhs, though it's affecting the life,
since you keep in touch, since you keep in touch on an everyday basis, why was this bandh called? Why don't people get in touch with these organizations and tell them not to do this? I personally feel after doing a show on this issue for more than 120 days, I feel that they are being handled very lightly. It has encouraged them.
See, it's very unfortunate. However, ultimately it boils down is the distrust by the Meitei community to the administration as well as the police and the other security forces. You see, the NS2 and the NS37 has been blocked, or blockade is bandh in Hindi, I suppose. So when we have a NS2 blockade and no action has been taken, of course, I do not support the bandh called by the Myra Pabis in Valley also. So all these things are correlated. So you have to instill the trust by removing the blockade of NH2 and NH37 when it's free for all, including the Meitei communities. Now only Meitei communities and their vehicles are not permitted to fly on this national highway number 2. You would have seen about a month back, the security forces were carrying from Guwahati to Imphal. However, they were burned. The Meitei buses were burned in Kangkup in front of the security forces. Nothing could have been done. So this, all these visuals and the news would have, in fact, this is creating a mistrust. And that's why they felt helpless, and more chaos in the chaos situation. Whatever actions you take is become more difficult for the people. That's what exactly happening. So central forces, central government and Manipur government should think and first clear all this and a blockade or burn of NH2 and NH37. Then things will slowly smoothen out. This is what I have to say.
Okay, you want to come in, or should I go to Mr. Bisau first?
I'll just one question to Nandakumarji. But Nandakumarji, this particular bandh is also called in to protest against the detention of or the arrest of those 5 youths by Manipur police. So how do you describe that? Because I completely understand and I agree with you that, you know, blockades of any road road which is critical to the existence or leads to distress should not be there. But do you seriously think that, you know, pressurizing Manipur police is also okay?
You see, in a chaotic situation, everything is, the decisions are taken in a very unprofessional way or in a hasty. That's why things are happening. And I'll tell you why Mera Paivis are taking such type of hasty decision of calling bandh. Because in the initial phase of the crisis, you would have heard the Mera Paivis, not only Mera Paivis, all the people, the civilians of the Manipur, they were asking help from Manipur police, the security forces, when their houses were burned and the killings are happening. So nobody turned up. In that time, people went up to the extent that these insurgency groups have been requested openly on camera. Please come, you people only are our hope. So that is one very unfortunate thing, that situational that advantage would have been taken by those miscreants, and of course they would have given some sympathy. And when they are in trouble, so this must be some sort of say showing the say payback or something like that. That's what I presume, which is incorrect, because taking arms and fighting with the government is always bad. We should peacefully protect and protest. We should peacefully protest and ask our demand. So taking up guns against the state is always condemnable and is highly condemned. The police crackdown to the miscreants is highly commendable.
I think at this point of time, I would like to get in Mr. Misau. Mr. Misau, how do you respond to this? Entire valley is shut because people with weapons are caught. You know, this is like amazing. You know, you catch people with weapons, sophisticated weapons, as per the tweet of the Manipur police, and you have the bandh because, you know, the mob wants to free them. I mean, you call them civil society? That's very uncivil.
Yeah, Kartikeya, I would say this is nothing new. It is something which is always happening in Manipur. The Mera Paivis was once highly regarded women organization for their unflinching role in bringing social and moral justice in Manipur, especially among the Meitei community. And the famous Nupilan, which is recorded in history, is all because of their role. Now, unfortunately, today's Mera Paivi has lost its credibility because of the role they played during this present conflict. Just going back to some chronological like news report, where, for instance, on June 4, a 7-year-old boy, along with his mother, on auntie, who were transported by ambulance for emergency medical assistance, were waylaid and burned down, but then they were burned alive. And on June 20, four UNLF cadre, as per news report, were arrested with 51mm mortar. They were forcefully released by the women because they stormed the police station where they were kept. And on June 25, 12 KYKL, a band proscribed value-based insurgent group, were arrested by the army along with the sophisticated weapon and one light store. They were also forcefully released because of the women folk, the so-called Mera Fibis, which is very, very unfortunate, because this posed a very greater national security threat in such giving circumstance. Women who have to play the role of peacekeeping, rather than doing that today, when five civilians who don the commando camouflage, holding all the sophisticated weapons, were arrested, they are calling all this bandh. Rather than that, they should call bandh for the state failure to bring peace and the central failure to bring peace. So if they do that, I think that would be the right way to bring about peace. But today, when they are opposing and when they are calling all this bandh just because they want the release of those four arrested people who are clearly arrested because they have those sophisticated weapons. And at the same time, I was saying it's nothing new, because the army has also released a visual where the police commando and those foreign elements who are also dressing like the commandos are also attacking the armies, at the same time the civilians in Pandey. I think this has to be taken very seriously by the central government, and unless we do that, I think democracy in Manipur is at high stake.
Ejang, you made a point. Ejang, I'll come to you. You have made a point. Mr. Azad, do you think that this has become a national security issue? You know, I don't use this word loosely, sir. National security, but if anyone analyzes the footage of last 120 days, it's like civil society have a free run of Manipur and the security forces are at the receiving end. In some parts it is Manipur police and in another part it is Assam rifle, but ultimately the arms of the state in charge of coercion, which is the sole prerogative of state anywhere in modern world, is at the receiving end. Where does it happen? I'll come to you, Major Toor. First, Mr. Azad.
I think it's a serious threat to internal security. You're right. And why national security is involved is because we have a very sensitive border. We've already talked about it. Now, you know, the one thing which is very important is that if we look at the incident in isolation, definitely it's an absolutely unacceptable incident of trying to, release those people, trying to overhaul the police stations. But in an atmosphere of distrust, and that is where I agree with Mr. Nankumar Sharma. He made a very good point. You look into the wider context where your national highways are blocked, number 2, number 37, and because you feel there will be a bigger fallout, and that's why you're allowing that, then it gives a kind of a different kind of a message. As you rightly said, with people, aligned on different sides, one blaming the Assam rifles, the other blaming the Manipur police, and then clashes between the two or a war of words between the two, it gives a very sordid picture of the entire place, which means that, Manipur today is divided territorially and also by social polity wise into two different groups. So that is what has to be broken this time and has to be important. Now, there is also an allegation, Kartikeya, about the SOO groups, whether they are in the camps, whether the weapons are supposedly be there or they are outside. So it's a question of various bunkers, various territorial divisions where people are, flaunting their openly the weaponry and even trying to block vehicles and act as checkposts. So the question is, at this particular point of time, there has to be a massive, statewide kind of operation, which is absolutely neutral. And the most important thing is of unearthing arms and not allowing camouflaged and fatigue groups to move in. Once this operation is done in a proper manner, then only the people will start believing. If the act, for example, there are many cases. We have been discussing for so many days on your group. There have been cases where it is felt that they have not been, the investigations are not going on. The investigations have to go on now that the teams of outside have come. Absolutely equivocally, and this has to be announced also to the people. I feel, Kartikeya, one of the most important thing in building the trust is that the government spokesman every day should come 4 o'clock and openly announce that this is what we have done. This is by way of rehabilitation. This is by way of camps. This is by the way of actions. Then only the people's ear will be showed up. Otherwise, how do people know what is happening? The distrust will continue. The rumors will continue. So that is a very important thing which has to be brought today to the fore before the public.
Mr. Azad, how is Manipur different from other insurgencies, if I may use the word, or other theatres of conflict or violence? Is Manipur charting a different road altogether?
Well, today, I mean, Manipur is very serious because, of the other states like Mizoram and other places, I mean, apart from the recent problem which has occurred, the influx of the refugees and all that is a different thing, but it's almost taken care of. Manipur is highly sensitive because it's currently totally divided. The social polity is divided. Talking about the operational part or the terrorism part, which had happened earlier, is a different thing. That can be a phenomena which is there in Kashmir also. But in Manipur is the social divide which we have to fight against. This is where the balm has to come from. So the balm can only come from a severe police action which is absolutely neutral and then followed by an administrative action. And it is serious because you have about 350 kilometers borders with Myanmar. You have a serious drug problem. You have a serious poppy cultivation issues. You have a serious arms smuggling. So, this is absolutely, it is different. And it needs to be brought to control. It needs to be brought before the public that the government is taking a very fair action.
Okay, Major Tur, you wanted to come in?
Now, as Yashwardhan sir had said, now I want to get down into the micro level aspects. Everybody is looking at the macro and the holistic picture, but let me get into the depth. So firstly, the situation which is happening is that all the forces that are involved in controlling of the situation has soldiers of both the tribes, the Meitei and the Kukis. So basically, there is no foolproof system that whatever intelligence is being shared is not being leaked out. So there is no authenticity to that, number one. Number two, there is definitely lapse of security and there are some notorious elements which are in the backdrop of the uniforms are coordinating with the warring tribes. Now, the third aspect is that what I see it is that the starting point of this whole conflict was the Meitei asking for a ST status. Now, had this been granted, that authorizes the Meitei to go and purchase land towards the Kukis areas. So the Kukis, now the sad part is that the history of the Kukis were that they were landlords. They have a lot of land in the hills, including the Nagas, but fortunately the Meitei had a truce with the Nagas, so Nagas are fortunately not getting involved into this. And the Kukis are the ones who were cultivating the poppy and continuing their fight for an independent state against the Indian government. Now, what is resulted
how can you say that, Major Tu? Because if you look at the historical records, Meitei insurgency is older than the Kuki, the recent phenomena of the violence between Kukis and Meiteis, one. And secondly, the Meitei insurgents were inspired by the Bengali communists, the Prapek and other outfits. I don't really need to go into that. In fact, Meitei insurgency is older. Pre-PAK, if I correct myself, P-R-E-P-A-K.
I totally get your point.
Can I come in? Can I come in here?
Misao, you wanted to come in? Come, Misao.
Clarify on Azad's,
you can come in, Misao. You can come in. But today I really want. Okay, you come in, Misao. You make your point. Make your point.
Yeah. Yes, Azadji. I would honestly clarify because cookies never fight for independence. This should be made very clear. And you please look at history. We fight against the British.
Major Tur said that, not Yashwardhan Azadji. It was Major Tur, not Yashwardhan Azad.
The second thing, we fight with Subhash Chandra Bose under Indian National Army. That was for India's independence. Even now, there's no instance where the Kukis demand for independence.
Nobody is questioning that. Nobody is questioning that. Yeah. My main point, sir, is the narco money, the drug money. and the channels from where it was being originated, I will not name. I'm sure the people are smart enough to know whom I'm trying to point out.
No, no.
But it was mainly the poppy cultivation from the hills, which was then resulting in the transfer of weapons from across the borders. So trust me, I'll tell you, see, this is the issue. That at least
I am
let
from
us
the ground and I
not.
know much better. I know much better from any
Okay, no,
outsider.
no, Major, first you finish your point, then Mr. Misao can get into it. Yes, you finish your point and
My
then
reason,
let Misao
my
respond.
reason is, why have they not gone into depth in rectifying, in going after the narco trade and the narco arms which are coming in? The main reason which is giving rise to violence. I mean, if you look at the photographs, I think even in Kashmir, this amount of weapon cache will not be there as it is in Manipur today, in the northeast. It is a very alarming situation. Then a new tactics is started, that you go in the form of a group which is unarmed and you take the whole state to ransom by blocking the main lifeline of the highways and then just having it your way. So I feel that it's just fueling more and more problems. It's not resolving anything. And the worst part is, none of the sides are bothered on the humanitarian aspects.
But Major too,
Then,
that is something which we have known already. But what has happened in the valley is that the Mehra Paibis want the release of these miscreants. That is the larger issues. They are unarmed, and still there was an attempt. There was an attempt to free them from a police station.
who's the one fueling these ladies for this movement? Why are they not being arrested and taken to ransom? Why are they not being
That is not for me to answer. Na? That is for the state government to answer. That is for the state government to answer. And the second thing is,
exactly my stress is that.
and the second thing is, narco terrorism had to be taken care by the state government. If they are narco terrorists, arrest them. Although how can we say that the entire community is responsible for narco terrorism? If narco terrorism is there, then the state police, state army, anyone should take action. If we stereotype a community in context of a practice, then it fuels a lot of problem. And I think that is also at the heart of the issue, Major Tu. Misao, that's just besides the point, narco terrorism, other thing. But my point is, when people from civil society disrupt the civic life, civil society people are supposed to create civilness in the civil life. What has happened in imphal is unprecedented.
People are being paid for it. सब कुछ free में थोड़ा हो रहा है. You really think somebody wants to remain hungry throughout the day? You really think somebody wants to be on the road in that heat? They don't have families. They don't have kids to attend to.
Okay, Misao, do you think it's organized? It's all organized. What has happened in Manipur? Okay, take it. Let Misao answer. Misao, is it organized?
Kartikeya, sorry, I was saying Azad, it should be Samar Singh. I was responding to him. Now, when the question like, is it organized? I think that's a very good question, which has to be substantiated with the chain of events. Now, in the last talk show, I have already said it is a well orchestrated, well engineered attack on the particular community. Because if you look at the chain, when the gun license from the Kuki community were asked to be submitted, and when the Armed Force Special Power Act in Tile Valley was withdrawn, and when the houses, the quarters were marked, and when the FCI godown in Trisanpur was the foodstuff were transported without the notice of the community. And when the arms, large cases of arms were discovered after the conflict in Susanpur, because that's how we said it is well organized. At the same time, I would also come to the point saying that it is well organized because the Mehra Paibis, as I have already said, is such a very credible women organization for the moral policing, at the same time the social and moral justice. It's highly regarded. Now, I cannot understand why these Mehra Paibis become such a tools in the hands of some miscreant just to fulfill their vested interest. Now, the army has already reported that the operation are obstructed. The reinforcement for peacekeeping was also obstructed by women folk. Now today, unfortunately, it is utter shock to everyone that when the 5 miscreants were arrested with sophisticated weapons, and this was not by the Assam Rifle, this was by the state police. And how come this Mera is, rather than supporting the action of the state force, which I believe is part of normalizing the situation, rather than supporting it, they are opposing it, and then they are also crying for the release of these people who are caught with this.
Sir, I'd like to intervene here. It's become more of a kangaroo court. That if I have 200 unarmed women surrounding a police station and saying, okay, get the people out who have got the illegal arms. And then the police station, what it does, it releases those people out. It's going to have repercussions. It shows the ineffectiveness.
Okay, let me point again. Let me get Mr. Azad there. Sir, Mr. Azad, what explains such crumbling of the administrative structure in the initial phase where people were able to loot arms? One. Secondly, the recovery has not taken place at the rate, if you contrast it with the way they looted the heavy machine guns or the heavy HMGs or heavy guns. And the third thing is, what explains such mobilization of women as the front of disturbing normal movement of security forces? Because if you look at all the pictures, instead of men, you will find women at the front. If you just do the photo analysis, you will find women at the front.
Kartikeya, you'll appreciate that this is an old organization, a civil society organization, and as someone rightly pointed out, and I had also mentioned, that even from the army they had released the captured terrorists. Yes. So, this is something which is, as you rightly said, it has accorded to itself tremendous powers, and everywhere it has been playing havoc. And that's why this is the first time, I think, that the police stood its ground and put them up before the magistrate. So this is also true that in the where you have mentioned that when a state is overawed, then there is nothing left, because the looting of arms, and mind you, I had also suggested on your platform only that the cases should be registered immediately against those, because the names were known, right? The names were known. But because the police stations are also divided in a manner, the actions were not taken. In a Maiti-dominated group, it becomes a Maiti police station. In a Kuki-dominated group, it becomes a Kuki police station. Therefore, irrespective of what it is something which cannot be allowed in a civil state where, a so-called civil society groups starts overawing the state government. I mean, and so I think there has to be a way to break it. And if it doesn't break, because in 48 hours, you cannot paralyze the whole state. You have to break it somehow, even by force. A beginning has already been made, and it is hoped that this will continue.
Okay, there is a question which Mr. Bisau, I know you don't represent the entire Cook group, but we have this practice of taking up questions from the viewers. One person has asked me that I should put it to my panelists. It's saying that the similar arrests have not taken place in Churachandpur. People with the weapons are out, but similar action has not been taken place in Churachandpur. Mr. Bisau, then I'll go to Mr. Nandakumar. One question has come to me.
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you. Then I'll go to Mr. Nandakumar. A person has asked me on our platform, because we get the questions, and I read the question to you. And the question is that the similar action has not taken place in Churachandpur. Mr. Kartikeya, why don't you come down to Manipur and see by yourself for a month? You won't need interviews. These interviews, people have their way of saying, but the issue is they're saying that similar actions have not been taken place, done in Churachandpur. Your response?
Kartikeya, Manipur is not only Churachandpur. I think this should be made very clear to the one who asked that question. Churachandpur is just one district of Manipur state. Now, when he asks such question, I would refute by saying that every now and then operations are taken up in the hill range, and then there's always a reports of arms being captured by the Assam Rifle and the security forces. I don't know from where. I think he has such shallow information and understanding of the ground realities. So there are lots of instances where the security forces, central security forces, done that combing operation and capture those guns, similar to that. But we never, I mean, when I'm saying we, the Kuki community never questioned the role of the Indian Army. We never protest because we strongly believe in the integrity of this, like the army and the Assam Rifle, because they always act without fear or favor. That's what we believe in. That's why we never question, unlike the leaders.
I'm putting up certain questions, these are tough questions. People have put it here. I'm asking you, and this is for Mr. Nandakumar. Mr. Nandakumar, Mr. Dhuidram says, you have been discussing about this arm looting, but the maximum arm looting took place in Imphal.
Yeah, I'll reply to this. I agree, maximum looted must happen in Imphal, and there is no doubt about it. But that's not the justification for that. But I would like to reply to Mr. Hazan. He said Kuki never fight for independence. It is absolutely wrong. Recently, about 2 months back, when the crisis started, the Kuki community has written to United Nations asking for or helping in forming a separate nation, and also to the Prime Minister of Israel. And also it is Mr. S.S. Haukip, one of the Shrew militant group. He has written in his book to form a Jalingam or Kuki land. And the same thing has been mentioned by Mr. Paulinglao Haukip, who is a Myanmar citizen and one of the JRA's chief. So this has been very elaborately known to most of the people, and they have been planning, and their aim is to use the facilities given in the Indian Constitution and slowly move out to get an independent Jalingam. So I have this point. And secondly, the arrest of the this thing, called by the Merapavi, has been seen in a different perspective. In main media here in rest of the Manipur, say it is seen that miscreants have been arrested. But in Manipur, the arrest is the village volunteers. When village volunteers are arrested, so they are asking to release for village volunteer. So I don't know which one is correct. The narrative set by the international media is that armed miscreants are captured and the Merapavis are demanding for release of them.
So are you saying that the local narrative is that they are not commoners, they are village defense?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So village defense volunteers have been arrested. That's why they are asking for the release of those innocent village volunteers. So this need an investigation. I don't know whether which is correct. This is one clarification. And one more aspect I would like to say, the Merapavis and the Meitei communities are asking equality before the law. That is under Article 40 of Indian Constitution. While the crackdown in Meitei insurgency groups, though they must be cracked down because they are illegal and they call illegal by MHA under UAPA 1967. However, the Kuki groups are not called illegal or banned by the government of India and government of Manipur by suspending operation against them. So operation can never happen until unless these agreements are cancelled. So how can you expect that when you have a suspended operation against two militant groups, so that equality is asking by the people of the Manipur, equality in the eyes of law, so there should not be given that legal extra impunity or immunity to commit any mistake or to carry any arms under the bypassing the laws laid down by the government of India. And I also agree with Mr. Azad. He said the operations carried out by the security forces must be put into public so that the confidence is built up by both the communities. Now it is seen that only one community is being targeted by the security forces. If the operations are conducted against other community, it should be briefed and conveyed to the people of the Manipur. Then such things will never happen. Okay. There will be a transparency and people will start trusting. Okay. And also I agree with Mr. Sama, Major Sama, about whatever he said. Thank you.
No, okay, Mr. Bisau, you come, and then I would really want to know that, generally when I read my, the question box, every time this thing comes up, we are protecting our motherland. I mean to say, Manipur belongs to every community. It's not restricted to one. Mr. Bisau, you respond, and then I'll go to Mr. Azad.
Yeah, before coming to that point, particularly what makes the Manipur situation more grim is the state complicity and the complete radicalization of the valley population. And the irony is the well-decorated Indian soldiers from the Meitei community who are now already retired, subscribe to such a radical ideology and taking active role in spreading the false narrative is what makes the situation more grim. Now, I just would like to clarify on the point of Group Captain G. Nanda Kumar. S.S. Haukip never wrote a book called The Land Gun. I think this has to be made clear. And when you are saying Pauline Lal belongs to, is a Myanmar national, I think you should come and clean yourself on this, because Pauline Lal is the existing BJP MLA, and Pauline Lal Haukip is never a Myanmar national. He was the Indian.
Haukip is an ex-ZRF chief. Someone has written it. Is it correct?
No. Pauline Lal is never ZRF chief.
No.
I think if you are quoting somebody's name, you have to quote it correctly.
Okay.
If you can't quote it, just I think you're.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, Mr. Misal. Okay. Mr. Azad, would you like to respond to this, that why is this that only one community has become a stakeholder in the security of the Manipur, Why is this narrative?
Yes, so I have made this point earlier that, today if you are talking to a mighty group, they have, very serious and legitimate grievances. If you talk about the kuki groups, they have legitimate grievances too. My point is that before you create a climate for any kind of talks or negotiations, peace has to be brought in a very fair manner. But that is a very tortuous process, and it has to be a very balanced process. You can't have action in one area and you can't allow a blockade in another area. Therefore, time has come now after so many months that there has to be a serious crackdown to free all the blockades. That's number one. Number two, mopping up of arms from everywhere, whether it's from the looted rifles in imphal area or the SOO groups. You have to check those 22 camps and see that where the weapons are. That has to be done. Number three, you have to register cases equally and faithfully against all the arms looters, whether here or there. And number four, you also have to see that the progress of investigation in all these cases is going in a fair manner. And lastly, I would say, again, insist on this, Kartikeya, because Manipur belongs to all. It's a part of India. And that's why it's important not only for even people in Delhi. I've been to Manipur so many times. There are so many people who like to visit Manipur. It's a very good tourist destination. Even they want to know what is exactly happening in Manipur. And therefore, there has to be an official account every day at 3 or 4 p.m. on the operations done, on the kind of people arrested, on the blockades clear, so that the people's confidence is shored up in the state.
Okay, Mr. Bisau, your line got cut off. Can you please just clarify on Mr. Haukip? I want you to clarify.
I was saying, Kartikeya, Pauline Lal Haukip is the present BJP MLA of the State Assembly. And when you call him,
I didn't call him. No. I didn't call him.
I'm not saying you.
I want the camera here. The reason why I said it, that this is how.
Kumar called him Myanmar national. I'm not saying to you, Nanda Kumar called him Myanmar national and chief of ZRA. I think what if Pauline Lal, who is the present BJP MLA, come and make an FIR against this group captain Nanda Kumar for calling him Myanmar national? How can you just call a BJP MLA a Myanmar national? He was, before becoming BJP MLA, he was who worked in the parliament, Indian parliament. And I mean, if you are not sure of something that you are talking about, I think better you shut your mouth.
This was in response to whom? Mr. Misao?
But that was to Nanda Kumar.
Nanda Kumarji, would you please respond to
SS
this?
Haukip never wrote a book
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Zelensky.
Mr. Nandakumar, please respond.
Powell is never a chief of ZRA.
I would like to respond.
Okay, let Nandakumarji respond. Nandakumar, please respond.
I may not be taking the name correctly. I was searching in my laptop. I am not able to find because of shortage time. I'll forward what I read to your studio. I would have misspelled or misread the names, but there is a gentleman who was MP of Myanmar in 1990s and who has come to Manipur and settled, and he is a leader of Zomi Reunification organization. That is the person whom I was calling. Name would have been wrong or maybe wrong. So I am referring to him, number one. Number two, it is known to everybody that you can see the Facebook of the Kuki, Jolan and all those things. It is written clearly written there. The maps are given, and anybody can visit the Facebook of
see, the bottom line is
ZR and all those things. So it is there.
See, the bottom line is, this is how sometimes the false narratives can become real. People can write here. That is why I took this opportunity to bring this part into the conversation. How narratives can be built. Someone can take anyone's name and say, you are not the resident of this place. So the bottom line is, I think, Brijesh, apart from what we witnessed in Imphal, in which the Mera Paibi angle has come up, I think what is really important is that the civil society outfits are actually forced by the state government so that they do not create more problem for the people. Bandh, or pressurizing police stations, asking them to, release them. Even if they were village defense volunteers, the police clearly stated that they had sophisticated weapons. They wouldn't have taken it out like a release.
There's also an angle involved. See, basically, if we are saying that there's a crackdown of police more severely in the Imphal area, and there's no crackdown on the in the Chura Chandpur area or area dominated by cookies, I think this question has to be answered by the central forces and the Manipur state police, because usually the allegation is of the other level, that there is a crackdown on one side and there is no crackdown on the other side. And if there is a lopsided crackdown, then this raises very serious questions. I mean, who is ordering those lopsided?
I would like to add to this.
Just can I finish, sir? Mr. Toor, let me finish, and you can just.
Yeah, sure.
And if there is a lopsided crackdown, then who's responsible for this? And see, the third thing is that any civil society, I know it's easier for me to sit here and pontificate than people who are sit there on the ground and facing the brunt. But I'm saying that, when you are building a narrative saying that, it is all about narco money, it is all about, try to paint one community, pit it against another. The point is that then, it also begets one larger question: what was the security forces doing there? The central security forces in the Manipur police. Why hasn't there been such visible crackdown where all of a sudden, you cannot use a particular narrative to suit your own tailor ends?
Mr. Misa, have you been able to travel across Manipur of late?
I keep traveling, Kartikeya, but I cannot cross the Imphal Valley, because forget about crossing the Imphal Valley. The people who pass through the hill range, 3 of them were shot dead by people who donned the camouflage of the state commando. So imagine how do we expect people to cross over Imphal Valley? Even now, last time when you invited me to Delhi with Rohan, I told you we don't have airport. I was not joking, because for us there's no airport. They have airport. If I have to come to Delhi, I have to cross over the state boundary and have to get the flight. And one thing before...
And Misao, is it correct? Misao, is it correct that all the Maiti MLAs are in the valley and all the Kuki MLAs are outside? They are not in the valley. Is it correct?
They are not in the valley. That's very true. They are outside the valley. The Kuki MLAs.
This is cutting across party line.
Because Vunjagin Vake, the MLA who was also the advisor to CM, was beaten almost killed, and now his life is in such condition because he is in Delhi. And imagine just that elected MLA with security forces coverage can be treated like that. How do we expect a civilian like us to go to Imphal Valley? Now, before I end my talk, I would like to say Manipur, if when somebody is saying people has to come together and start dialogue, I think we are reaching to a stage or a level when dialogue between the civil society has no much role. Now, I would say the problem in Manipur is political in nature, and now the ball lies in the central government, because a problem which is political in nature has to be solved through political dialogue and political process. Until that is done, I don't think.
Okay. 15 seconds to you, Mr. Tur. Major Tur, 15 seconds. Tell me.
Okay, Kartikeya. Firstly, we have a history of asking for their land. Metais have been calling for a ban whenever it was 15th August for the past 20 years. And now the first movie has been screened. Movie has been screened after 20 years in Manipur.
Okay.
Thirdly, when there is going to be an economic corridor, look east policy, northeast policy, and there are a lot of money at stake.
I think there's a bit of a problem. You see, Major Tur, look east policy, act east policies can take place. At least the center of the action should be stable. There is no violence taking place in Manipur. There is no, right now, the sort of skirmish which used to take place is taking place. This is a good thing. But what is happening is that civil society, instead of bringing normalcy in the system, that is why I wanted to do this discussion, instead of bringing some sort of a normalcy in the system, are counter pressurizing the security forces, which I think should be avoided, and state government should continue with what it is doing. I think all power to the Manipur police today by what they have done. I think if you find anyone with the sophisticated weapons, the only place they should have is behind the prison, behind bars. I think that's the most important thing.
इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं क्योंकि सभी लोग कर रहे हैं.
Coaching is now starting from grade 3, 4, 5, 6.
होता जाने वाली बीच राह में